So this past weekend, we were finally able to do a live, in-person, hands-on training session with some of the practitioners that are trained in the peak method. And it was awesome. I've been wanting to do these seminars now for going on almost a year, and then COVID kind of threw a monkey wrench in everything. And then the world is a little bit crazy. So once we finished all the training this weekend, I sat down with two of our practitioners, Ari and Leah, who have been implementing the peak method. And we really just had a real candid conversation about what they got from the training, what they've experienced trying to implement it in their own practice, some shortcomings and problems we see with the current massage model, and really just give you an insight about what they learned with the hands-on training module. So I hope you enjoy this real and honest conversation. Now, the audio isn't as great because we were sitting around trying to record it, but I think there's a lot of good information and good nuggets on there. So I hope you guys enjoy the show. All right, welcome back to the Soft Tissue Revolution podcast. Dr. Matt Maggio here. We just finished up our very first in-person, hands-on, we're not afraid of COVID, none of that stuff, in-person training. Been developing this system, going on like 10 years now, and we've really seen, you can't learn shit online, especially when it comes to soft tissue therapy. And I've been doing some private coaching with several people, from all over the country. And they've gotten really good results in their clinic just from learning some of the stuff online, but they haven't had a chance to do hands-on. So we finally had our first hands-on seminar this weekend. Went really well and learned a lot. So I have Ari and Leah here. They've been coaching with me for a while now, and they just went through the training in person, and I thought it'd be a good time to have them on the podcast and just have them kind of share what they learned, what they're seeing, and kind of help educate other potential therapists out there that are looking to kind of make a change in their practice and become more of that specialist, solution-based type of provider. Ari's been a multiple episode guest over Zoom, but Leah has not yet. So what I'm going to do is have them each introduce themselves and then just say where they're from and, a little bit of their background and what they've been doing, kind of learning from me. So let's start with Leah. Go ahead, Leah.
Hi, everyone. I'm Lee Morgan, and I'm from the Dallas-Fort Worth area. I have my own massage practice in South Lake, Texas, actually, and have been practicing and focusing mostly on athletes. I have had my practice for about 3 years now, and I think I found Matt last December or so, maybe last fall. I've been following his stuff on Instagram and LinkedIn and all the social platforms. And I was just really interested in this idea of being able to shorten my treatment times and be more effective with what I'm already attempting to do. I have a lot of people that come and see me for different scar tissue issues, and I think that massage therapists are generally effective to a degree at treating some of these issues, but the carryover and the longevity of the treatment is sort of short-lived. So I had a lot of functional assessment in my school and my training, and so that component of treatment is very interesting to me because I know there's a lot more going on typically than just, a 60-minute nap time kind of situation. And frankly, those are boring. If they're going to take a nap, then so am I. So, but I love the idea of trying to figure out a person's issues like a puzzle and understand what's going on and being able to fix them and treat them so that they don't have to keep coming back for a nap. So that's kind of...
Yeah, and we got hooked up too. We had been going back and forth in like email. I think it was Facebook where we first started talking.
Yeah.
And you had talked about your own injury. You're like, I got this weird demon thing going on my shoulder and no one can really figure it out. And that was something that really kind of stuck with you. Like I went through and did like one of my consultations and you had been told no one could really figure out what was going on. And when I was like, hey, you actually got this and going on, you're like, holy shit, this makes sense. And that's when we started talking a little bit more. And I think you saw with my system, like a lot of people look at it from the outside and they think that it's like just a treatment. They're like, oh, it's another treatment and you're doing this. Or they'll watch a video and they'll be like, oh, it's just myofascial release or a pin and stretch. I already do that. But what they don't realize is all the other components into it, like what goes into that. Like, and I always teach in my modules, and most people, they shy away from this. You guys didn't. That's why you're here, is like this idea of like critical thinking, like being able to figure out what's wrong with your clients. And so many massage therapists, I say they wimp out, or they're kind of cowards in a different way. They go, well, it's not my scope, so I'm not allowed to diagnose. I'm like, that's such bullshit. Like, just because you're not allowed to technically diagnose doesn't mean you don't have to know what's wrong with your client. And that's what we really started. And you started thinking critically, and you're like, holy shit, like these problems my clients are having is making a big difference in getting to that root cause. And you've started to see it too. You've been injured yourself, and you realize what bullshit's out there. Like, I've been a big proponent of like how awful the conservative care model is, you know, like never ending chiropractic adjustments, PT stuff that doesn't work. If people listen to the last podcast, I went off about how like I can't stand physical therapists, and because they don't do anything. And I'm a chiropractor who doesn't do any adjustments, and it's like, it's really shitty to be a person who's in pain, and it takes away so much from you. And the people that I work with, like even you're busy, like you're super busy, but it's not a good busy. Like you're burning it at both ends, and it's like you're sacrificing your health, you're doing all that, but to like make that commitment and do that, it's been really good. And just changing that perspective, and you're seeing things differently too. Like a lot of my training is like, we go into the spine, like we're looking at the ligaments of the spine, the muscles around the spine, and you and me would have talks back and forth, and you'd be like, you know, man, I trust you, but fuck, like we're not supposed to touch that area. And I said to you one day, I go, well, what the fuck's the person supposed to do? Get a bullshit adjustment and get their neck snapped off? Like, no, you're actually going in there and doing that. So Leah's been really good to like, she's good because she challenges me and she asks good questions, but it's like, as we get into that perspective, you're like, oh, you know what? I get it.
It's okay to touch the spine.
Yeah, it's okay to touch the spine because you have to, because it has problems. So yes, thank you for sharing. And then we have Ari. She's been back on the podcast a couple times. She's been on a while, but so introduce yourself.
My name is Ari Boyajin. I am a massage therapist of 14 years. I've owned my own business for 13. And I got into it because of my own injuries personally, and I was in and out of PT and multiple surgeries for about, 14 or 15 years. So I initially geared my practice towards PT type of stuff, to do stretching and stuff like that, and incorporate everything into the massage. But again, like Leah, I was finding just temporary relief with people and not longevity. So I'm getting to the point where I'm just getting burned out and not being able to sustain long days anymore like I used to. And, I'm getting older and
well, I think we saw with both of you guys is like, you both have a desire to want to do more, and it's like the evolution of like massage. And I talk about massage is really good and it has good basis, but it hasn't changed a lot over the years. And you get stuck in that, like that service-based model. You're like, well, the client does this and they want to do that. And like a big thing that I'm always talking about too is like, when you're taken seriously as a healthcare provider, you don't have to take shit from people. And it's amazing. We were talking about it this weekend. Like, you get these clients that come in and they watch, and I call them Instagram fuckheads or like YouTube gurus, and they're like, oh, so-and-so said this, and they're like, I have this, and like, well, my injury's this, and I need you to work on this. And I look at them and I'm like, what the fuck? You're like an accountant. Like, where did you get advanced musculoskeletal care? I'll even joke with people in my own clinic. I'll be like, oh, where did you go to doctor school? And they'll laugh. But that's what happens, is then we get so stuck in that service-based model that we end up taking shit from people, and then we get kind of jaded. We're like, we want to help these people, but we know that we can do it better. And I'm amazed at like how many people just go through the motions. And we've seen that with COVID. Like, I was just talking with Leah, Leah and Ari, they're trying to find like people that they have so much surplus of clients, but finding good people that want to come work and learn just isn't there. And that's what happened with COVID. I talked about this like a year ago. Like, there's different types of people, and all the shitty people went away and they can't hide anymore. But there's such a need of people that want to get their injuries fixed and their injuries solved. And if you can give people their time back, and that's a big thing that I talk about. And it's like, they think that this treatment in this system is about for the patients and the clients. It's not. My real goal is to help the therapist get control back in their life and have freedom and have health and have longevity and make a shit ton of money too. Like, you deserve to be paid. Like, I think that's a big thing I see with massage therapists too, is just that limiting idea of like, well, I feel bad about this or whatever. I'm like, fuck, people pay so much money for so many other things.
Yeah.
And when it comes to their health, they do that. And you deserve to be financially free. You deserve to have time with your family because you're doing really good work. And that's the problem, is that people aren't willing to take that control back. So we finally did a hands-on seminar, and like I said, I get so many people that just look at my stuff and they're like, yeah, that's just like that. I've taken that. I've taken these type of courses. Like, there's nothing special about that. But what would you guys say to somebody that, like, what's different about what I do? What's different about our approach, and what makes it sustainable?
The first thing that comes to my mind is just the depth and putting proper depth and tension onto the area, and learning how to just change your body mechanics and not go too deep and make something else aggravated, and get the proper tension, and then put someone through a range of motion. So
yeah, I think like we see this with massage, is that it's just like that whole deep tissue like fallacy, I call it, of like, and people say this all the time. They're like, well, I'm really good at going deep, or my therapist goes really deep and it hurts like hell, but as soon as I'm like, no, it's not helping anybody. And it's like, it's teaching you how to, like, that fine feel, and like I always say, working smarter, not harder, and using your body. Like, we spent so much time this weekend, like, on just mechanics, and they didn't even realize, like, they had watched my training videos, but then they saw me actually doing it. Like, I'm like a airplane pilot before they take off. I'm like, check this, check, and do that. And that's the thing, is like, that's why you see, like, you guys are definitely the outliers. You've been in the profession for way longer than most, but when I like read the research, I saw that like most therapists wash out in like 5 to 7 years, and it's usually because of a physical problem. And it's like,
very short lifespan.
Yeah, and it's like, and the other thing too is like, fuck, it's hard to do 60 minutes straight of anything. And what you guys are learning, and what we talk about, is like, I get people down to 20-minute treatment sessions, and they're like, oh, I can never get anything done. Like, you totally can. And but also, half of that treatment session, you guys even saw it, is like measurements, it's palpation, it's communicating with the client, and you're really only doing 5 or 6 minutes of really effective treatment, and it just saves your body. Like, you can't. What about your take?
I think that for me, just being here observing the whole process, I would say that it really is all about efficiency. Like, don't stand in front of a fire hydrant to take a shower. You know, like, really, it's more about being really fine-tuning, going exactly where you need to go and not where you don't need to go. I think that's what makes this system so good, is because it is highly effective. It saves both the patient and the therapist time and wear and tear, because you're not getting a beating for 90 minutes. Both of you aren't getting a beating for 90 minutes. And it is smarter, not harder. It's working in the best possible way while still getting the most benefit to the patient.
Yeah, and I have a podcast that's going to be coming out, I think, in the next couple of weeks, and it's like the idea of like why a shorter treatment is not just better for the client, but it's better for you too. And it's like a win-win type of situation, but it's hard. Like, you know, you guys have been working with me for a while, and you guys are both transitioning your practice over from a booked up traditional massage, and you guys do more functional based anyway and more sports related, but it's still in that model of, you know, 60 to 90 minutes. And you guys are making that change. And that's been one of the most difficult things, is like getting people on board that you're doing it differently. But that's the type of people that I work with. I'm working with people that have a busy practice, but they want to get their time back, because I always say your most precious resource is your time. It's unrenewable. And if you can get more time, and then you can take care of your own health, because both of you too, you guys have struggled with your own health, just being beat up from what you do. And, and this gives you that kind of freedom. So on the surface, like I said, it looks like I'm caring about the patient and I'm caring about the client, which I do, but I really care about the therapist, because I know what it's like. I've been to that dark edge where you're busting your ass.
Yeah,
and
I'm just tired.
You're tired, and it's almost to like a depressive level because
Yeah.
you're working so hard to help other people, but
Right.
you can't. You're sacrificing
Right.
You're
yourself.
exhausted.
And like I look at like NFL athletes or professional athletes, like they're sacrificing their bodies, their health, and whatever, but they're sacrificing it for money. But therapists and good therapists like you guys are sacrificing your body, but the trade-off isn't there. Like if you're getting paid a couple $100,000 and doing this, I'd be like, fuck, let's go. But like most therapists, I look at people, I'm amazed. Like on LinkedIn, I have like 7,500 people that are connection with massage therapists. I'm amazed at how many of them have part-time jobs. Like they're like this, this, and this, and I'm like, that sucks. Like it sucks when you can't have that be what you truly want to do, and it's not their fault. Like the industry, it's got problems. Schooling's got problems. Legislation boards have problems. It's limiting, but there has to be people that are willing to go against the grain and challenge the norm and I call it like be a heretic. Like be that person that stands out. Like I'm like that in my own profession. Like I've talked about this all the time. Like, I don't think chiropractic does anything. I don't do adjustments, so they hate me. But you know what? That's okay. And it's the same thing in this world. Like there's massage therapists who send me a lot of hate, and they're like, "You're full of yourself," and no one could ever do that. I'm like, but you can. And it's like that limiting belief.
And it isn't to say that massage therapy in itself doesn't have value.
Yeah.
It does. But it doesn't have to be, like I think what Ari and I have been specialized in more in, musculoskeletal treatments where we're trying to actually get to a root cause. People come to us because they have a problem, not because they do want like a Swedish fluff and buff, as I call it.
Yeah.
But and that's fine. You can still get the nervous system relax and break, and there's still value in that. But if you have pain and if you have something that's been going on for a long time and you need it to not anymore, then do this because it works.
Yeah, and I'm really big, and you guys have seen this in the coaching. Like I'm really big on communication and how you explain to the client what's going on. And a big thing for me is I like to use analogies. Yeah. And my favorite analogy is like a dental analogy. And I use this with this stuff all the time. And I say, traditional massage and, even like some good people that are doing like some functional based stuff, that's kind of like brushing and flossing your teeth. And maybe a deep clean every once in a while. But people that are injured and in pain, it's like they have a really bad cavity and a root canal. And we have to be those people. Absolutely. That's where we're that specialist. And we go in there and we drill it out. And then there's plenty of need for other stuff. I think I get regular massage once a month, and there's things for that. But at the end of the day, like you can't fix a cavity by brushing it.
For that, right?
Yeah, and then we have this whole faction of people out there where it's like fix your own injury and do this. And that's where the PTs are like, do these 5 exercises, or here's a massage gun to do it, or this. And it's like we're delaying that, and we're delaying the option for the client to get effective treatment. I always say when we present to a client what's going on, we say there's a window of opportunity for us to help, but it's not going to last forever. And I think what happens is a lot of people use up that time because they're wasting treatment and they're doing stuff. And I think it just really comes down to is like I really believe, and not even believe, I feel it's necessary if we're going to solve the pain pill problem and slow this down, is that people need better conservative care. And the people best equipped with that is massage therapists, but you're going to have to do it a different way.
Yeah, I think the issue also could, with the, with this system, with the peak method, we don't go really symptom chasing. Yeah. We basically get to the root cause of things, and it could be somewhere figure it out from there. It could be something different than the shoulder. It could be coming from the neck. And
it's that critical thinking part. And I see this all the time. There's like different factions out there. Like there's this one guy, I don't even think he listens to the podcast anymore. I can't fucking stand him. If you are listening, Perry, go fuck yourself. His name is, he's got a thing called like Stop Chasing Pain. And basically me and him have had interactions over the years where it's like, well, symptoms don't matter or whatever. I'm like, yeah, that means to a point. So I think what you run into in musculoskeletal care is there's like 2 sides of it. Like one side is like symptoms are everything, and the other side is like symptoms don't matter. I'm like, it's nowhere. It's in the middle. So like I appreciate symptoms because they tell me what's going on, but you have to interpret those symptoms and what they mean. Right. And I always say you get to a tissue-specific problem. So if you're one of these people that are saying things like, it's tight, it's not firing, it's weak, it's inhibited, it doesn't tell me anything. And you guys know that when we're done, we take a thorough consultation about what's going on, a thorough evaluation. When we're done, we have a tissue-specific problem of what's going on. And then there's a lot of people out there that can tell you what's wrong, but they ain't telling you how to fix it. Then you guys saw that this weekend. I got to treat people, and you saw that we were doing treatment, and you had these sustainable changes. And then we came back a few days later, and we remeasured those tests, and they were still there. It's like, yeah, how did that feel when you saw that?
The carryover is pretty cool.
Yeah, and you guys did that yourselves. It wasn't just me doing that. So we start with this test where we work, I have an instrument that I developed, and they've been using that. It works really good for breaking down scar tissue. And I do a lot of hands-on stuff. But we do these tests with the quadricep and testing the length of that. And everyone was very limited in there. And we did some treatment with the instrument with our hands. And it wasn't just me doing it. It was everyone else doing it. And they got changes right away. And it's like, okay. And anyone can get you like temporary, I can't say the word right, temporary changes.
Yeah.
But what we did was we came back the next day. And then after that, and you guys remeasured, and it was still good. And they all were like, holy shit, like, this is really good. Because I always say for a treatment to be worth a damn, it has to be three things: safe, effective, and durable. And some people get safe, and effective is like very biased. Like, what does effective mean? Like, you feel good in the short term. It's the durable one. Durable means, can it last? Is it going to last? And no one's doing durability, and that's what we're really trying to teach here. So it's been great. We're getting ready. I'm gonna have a couple podcasts coming up in a couple of weeks here, talking about our in-person training and stuff like that. Like I said, now that COVID's limited, or I don't know, whatever.
Not limiting anymore.
Not limiting anymore. We're doing in-person seminars. We're not afraid. Like, come here, come learn. We're going to start by doing them. I'll have a more in-depth podcast talking about that. But we're going to do some in-person ones in August and September and October. But I just wanted you guys to just share your last input, or like anyone considering learning from us, or like what you would tell them, and just close us up.
Just do it. Just hop the ship and just change, and get more, less burnout and more effectiveness and more results from your treatments, because it's just more sustainable.
Yeah, absolutely. I totally agree with that. And I would say, in addition, if you are looking for a long career, if you want to do something like up until your retirement age, then it's kind of necessary, because this is like doing traditional massage. It's not something you can do full time into your 60s. You're probably going to burn out around 50. Not to mention, you're going to make more money with less time, and you can trust yourself with this. It is okay as a massage therapist to think of yourself as someone who can solve these pain problems. So that's my general advice.
That's awesome. And that's like you guys, we talked before we got on the podcast, and like what I've been trying to do behind the scenes for the last 2 years. You guys have heard Steve on the podcast and other people. It's like, I've made this and I've crafted this specifically for massage therapists, because I know the limitations that you guys bring to the table. Right. And a lot of that is, it's not physical limitations. It's not that. It's mindset. And it's mindset. It's like, I talk about this all the time. Like, you are a viable healthcare option. You are doing better. You're better than the chiropractors. You're better than the physical therapists. And I sure as shit don't want people to go to the orthopedic surgeon and get surgeries and injections. But it's like, we have to start this movement of like getting your swagger, getting that swagger back. And Leah's talked about this too. Like, she's had interactions, and even Shauna, who was here this weekend, like, you have interactions with other practitioners, and what they'll start to do is they'll shit on you. And they'll shit on you and be like, where's your research and all that? If you want the research part, go back to the last episode where I told you all the bullshit they'll do. But what they do is they want to start attacking you because you change their paradigm and you change it differently. And people don't like change. They have biases to that. And that's okay. I love when I get hate. I love when people question what I do and they shit on it, because it shows me that I'm doing something right. So appreciate you guys taking time to be on the show.
Thank you. It's been fun.
Yeah, and then look for their stuff going forward, and we'll see you guys on the next episode. Bye. Thanks so much for listening to the show. If you're a massage therapist and you want to learn more about our new methods that allow you to easily double your income without working any harder or getting burnout, we have some free resources for you. 1, join our Facebook group, The Soft Tissue Revolution. 2, subscribe to our YouTube channel. 3, request our free training series. 4, leave us a 5-star review and share this podcast with anyone else you know it can help. Links to all our channels and free training are in the show notes.